All right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Vito. My name is Claudio. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. For the students in Fairfax City, we're very humble, grateful that Vito Lo Re accepted our invitation to the show. Vito, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Claudio. It's a pleasure to meet you, even if virtually. It's a quite pleasure for me.
Same here. Let's go back to the last 2 years have been very, very difficult. With the COVID, some people believe in the vaccine, some people don't believe, whatever it is. In Italy, a lot of people died in the beginning. It was very difficult. Here in the United States, over 1 million people die with the COVID. How COVID affected you, your family, your life, your sanity? How you hold it up, man?
So first of all, we had this strange privilege of being the very first to fight with the virus. So actually, it was a privilege that probably most people would have prefer not being referred to, but it was this way. So how it affected my life? I always think that in every situation we can find an opportunity, even the more difficult, and even if from a business point of view it was an incredible failure, because all the shootings for movies and series and whatever else were stopped, and many shows, many series and movies were cancelled. And actually I lost one series and one movie because of the COVID. And so what did I do? First of all, I did one thing that it's very, very rare in my profession, and generally maybe in nowadays life. That's it's stopping. To stop your life and say, okay, because we're always running all day long. We have many projects we are working with, and many of them start when the other one is not yet finished, not yet over, and so on. So I think that I took advantage of this situation for asking myself, is everything as I would like it to be? I mean, I'm doing the thing that I wanted to do 5 or 10 years ago, and if I'm doing those things, am I doing in the way that I thought that I would done? It's something very, very strange. So I took this this period made of 3 months for the first period where we were closed up in our homes, and it was really impossible even going outside to take your dog to the park or to have some shopping. And so I tried to stop and try to think and try to make to understand the value of the thing that I was doing, and to ask to myself if there was something that could be that could have done better, in a better way, or in a different way, or in a total different way, or maybe not doing that thing no more. So that was absolutely, let's say, useful. But you see, I'm a terrific optimistic man, and so I always try to get the good side in each situation. And then was also the opportunity to write some music only for my pleasure, or only for my personal research, because you see it's we have to manage many times in a year with different projects, so very different, especially in my case, since I work in so many different musical fields, in short movies, in feature film movies, in TV shows, radio, songs, musical, classical music. I've been working as a conductor and as an opera conductor for many years. I'm an arranger and an orchestrator, and so many different things. And so it's very rare for us, and for me especially, to stop and saying, okay, now I'm writing now this piece of music only for my pleasure or only for my personal musical research. And so that's what I did. And the last thing that I did, I used to, as probably everybody in the world did, I used to have some conversation like we are doing right now with some other composers, and that was streamed live in my Facebook and in my YouTube channel. And it was a good opportunity to speak with the composer. Of course, it was a dialogue that was made, let's say, for the public, for the audience. But especially it was very useful to me because I realized that even if I knew this composer from a very long time, it's very rare for us to sit down and speak of business, of music, or our projects, our ideas, our limits, our whatever. Okay, so it was very, very, very useful, and so I started with this interviews in a channel, in a Facebook page that is called Le Colonne d'Ercole. And after in the second part, let's say after 7-8 months of complete stop, so no interviews, no more conversation, because the business was again active, let's say. After this period of stop, I started again some months ago to do a different project on the same page, Le Colonne d'Ercole, which actually in every time I analyze a musical soundtrack, a soundtrack for many famous movies. I did Aliens, Basic Instinct, Lawrence of Arabia, and
Wow.
the Exorcist, and now I'm preparing one for Deep Red, Profondo Rosso by Dario Argento, and so many other soundtracks. So that's the way I used the COVID period, actually.
Good for you. For me, I was like you. I was going very fast in my life. I do a lot of different things. I do some teaching, and I own a company, and I work for a company, and like music. So I was going very fast. So the COVID made me slow down, see what was important for me and my family, and then I got rid of a lot of stuff that were necessary. So I feel very bad that so many people here died in the United States, but the best thing that happened to me was the COVID, because allowed me to work from home. I opened one radio, then I opened another radio. I sent the link to our friends, and I thought, well, I really like music. I've been listening to music for many, many years, hours a day, from jazz, from rock, from film, scoring, soundtrack, and everything, opera and classical music, and I thought, well, musicians are not touring with the COVID. Everybody must be at home. So I start calling people and sending emails. So little by little, at the beginning, it was very difficult.
No one was traveling. Oh, sorry, I can't answer you. I'm traveling. No, you're not.
You're not. Yeah. So little by little, people start getting back to me, and I did a lot at the beginning. I was interview with people from the electronic music world, like Klaus Schulze type and Tangerine Dreams and all these great musicians, and I got lucky, and now I have done, I don't know, 250 or something more, and I try to do like 3 or 4 a week, and now people, I used to send a lot of email, now people are emailing me because they see the interview what I did with Italian composers, electronic music, the people from Camel, from Gone, from Genesis, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and so on and so forth. That now I'm getting email. People wanna, hey, do you have time? Can we do an interview? And so on and so forth. So it has been healing. And there is an expression here in the United States called to smell the roses, meaning that you're going too fast, that you didn't even smell the rose, how beautiful it is, how beautiful the world is, and
Yes, it is.
it was crazy. So so in that sense, I'm lucky. Were you born like in a musical family? I mean, how old were you when you perhaps began taking piano lesson or guitar lesson or?
Well, it's a strange situation when music in my family, because my grandfather was actually had my own name, or maybe I got his own name. Was a very important trumpet player in the 20s and in the 30s of the last century. He died when I was 4 years old, so actually I never met him. But even if he was such a strong musician, who performed all over the world and in the most important theaters in the world, he had four sons, but no one of them actually studied music. But the next generation, so his grandsons, they almost all of them at least study music. And actually I have three cousins who are professional musicians. So music has always been very very deep into my family. So I've been raised listening, especially from classical musical to opera from my mother's side, and jazz from my father's side. Beside that being said, I didn't start to study music very very young, even if I grew up into music. I don't know why, because when I was a child, don't ask me why I thought that I was not interested in music, and I was even not enough talent to do music. Don't ask me why. I don't know how this thought went into my mind, but it was like this. So actually, I started studying music only when I was a boy, in high school actually. So I started with classical guitar. And the funny thing is that even after a few days that I got the guitar in my hands, I immediately felt the need to write something. Okay, even something very very simple, something very even childish maybe, but this was like an instinct that I immediately had. That's why after a few years studying classical guitar, I decided to take lessons of compositions too, and which I did. And after that, I take lessons of orchestral conducting, and I started composing, especially for theater shows when I was 19 years old, actually 18, 19 years old. And that was the beginning of my actually composer career. But since music is a strange world, that it happened to me that for about 12 years I did not compose because I was actually only an orchestra conductor. I traveled all around the world, playing especially opera, but also symphonic and classical music in general, sacred music, and so on. But for 12 years, I did only a career as a conductor. And then I started again to compose after about 10 years, which actually it's a very long time, and I'm aware of it. But I don't know. I don't know when. Sorry, I don't know how. I mean, that I get a commission to write a piece of music, and music was flowing from my fingers in a very natural way. So I said to myself, maybe I can take compositions back into my life, and that's what I did. And actually, nowadays I always sometimes say conduct but mainly I conduct my own music when I record with the orchestra. But actually today I'm mainly a composer, and my conductor career is some part of my past life.
Good for you. Good for you. There are in Italy. There's so many. Yeah, of course, everybody knows Ennio Morricone. Of course, he was or Dario Argento, director. But there are so many great musicians, so many film composers in Italy. So how there are there's many schools that people can study like film scoring, or they need to take the path from classical music into film score, or they are a specialized school that people can?
Well, that's interesting. It depends. I mean, there are actually, let's say that until 10, 15 years ago, there was no actual music schools, especially for film music. So what the composer did actually was doing study composition at the Conservatory as I did, and after that they used to to work as the movie composers. Now there is a new generation of composer who did not study classical music, not classical composition. They have more modern background, and some of them come from jazz or from pop music, and I think that it's interesting seeing how composers are very different. I mean, I work. Sorry, not the work, but I am in a society called ACMF, which is a society for composers of film music in Italy. And the honorary president used to be Ennio Morricone, and now is Nicola Piovani. And we are about 100 and something composer in this society, with all these different backgrounds. And several times we have some meetings to have some exchange, to share experiences, and to share our different backgrounds. But in the last years, there are so many musical schools, especially even conservatories, are introducing especially film music courses. And I know many teachers in several music schools. And beside them, there is also some places like il Centro Sperimentale di Cinematografia in Rome, which is actually the main cinema school in Italy, the historical. All the directors came from that, which is actually a school specialized in film making, not in music. But in the last years, they organized so many master classes and so many panels, especially on film music. And about once a year, they invite me to get a master class with these young students, and each time I see in front of me 30, 45, 50 musicians, young musicians, willing to do the job, and they always ask how to do the job, and which are the problems, how the markets today. I always try to be very honest with them. I mean, I don't want. I wanna. They have a real image of what's the situation nowadays, which is actually it's tough. I mean, I'm part of that. There are the historical generation made of Morricone, made by Piovani, Silvia Cipriani, Rizzo Ortolani, which actually was the golden era of film music. Then there is a second generation which was able again to smell what was the golden era. There is a third generation, which is actually mine, and we always had the last part of that smell, and now that there is the next generation which actually does not smell anymore, nothing. And I always try to be very honest with these guys. I always say, I'm not saying you can't do this work. Absolutely, it's not what I'm saying. Otherwise, it would be useless being here today. But I always want they to be aware of that it's a tough market. It's a different market, especially if you think that you can do this job in 2022 in the same way like you used to do in the 70s or in the 80s of the last century. The market is completely different. And so it's useless staying crying, saying, oh, there's not the market, or there's no more golden era, there are no more the same project. Because, for example, I do a fact that could be interesting. In the 70s, in Italy, they produced about 350, 380 movies a year. So let's say more than one movie per day, actually. And the composer were how many? 30, 20, 30? If you divide the number of music by the number of composers, you understand why Ennio Morricone in 72, I guess, wrote 22 soundtracks in 1 year, which is totally crazy. Or even Stabio Cipriani, so he's in the 70s he used to compose 10 or 15 or 20 soundtracks in 1 year. Nowadays in Italy we produce about 100 something, let's say 130 movies, and I don't know how many composers there are in Italy, but only in ACMF, in the composer society I told you before, we are 130 or something like that. Okay, so compare the number of the movies that used to be shot in the 70s to today, and compare the number of musicians with the number the number of composers today. It's so different. And also one problem more, which is when I say that only 130 movies are produced per year in Italy, we got to understand what produced means, because a part of these 130 movies are produced but never distributed.
Really?
So yes, so they are produced. They are okay. Guys, the movie is over. No one will never see that movie, because it's hard to explain how it works and why this happened, but it happened. And so that's why the composer like me, who are involved in huge productions, in feature movies and so on, I think that I got some privilege, okay, and for the next generation it's really hard. That's why I always say to these guys, if you have the opportunity, go to study or to work elsewhere, because if I would have if I would be 20 or 25 years old, I would leave for maybe for America or for UK or Australia or Canada or any other place. But in my situation, it's okay like this. I work with important project, with important movies, and actually I did achieve the goal that I was in my mind when I was a boy, to live with this job. And so actually I can't complain, and I certainly won't. But it's also the new platforms, just like Netflix or Amazon Prime or Apple TV, Sky, Disney Plus, Paramount, and whatever. It's a different way of doing movies. It's a different way to distribute these movies. So it's a completely different market, especially from the copyrights point of view, which is actually in America you do not have copyrights because the composer got a buyout, so he's paid more money right here, right now, and he takes no money after the performances. In Italy and generally in Europe, it's different. We got less fee as a composer, but we get copyrights for the whole life of a movie. So if a movie is being distributed anywhere for 20 years or 30 years, you got money for 20 years or 30 years. Even if maybe in the very beginning you did not have a huge fee, a huge composer fee. So that's why it's a market that completely changed. So I think that we got to be aware of what the changes are.
Yeah, you've been that's great. You have been an opera conductor since '97, and you've been conducted opera in over 30 opera in a lot of different countries: Canada, Czech Republic, Switzerland, Romania, Ukraine. Any particular all these theaters, any particular place that you say, man, I wish I could live there and come back every year during the summer to do an opera? Is any place in particular?
Oh yes, several places in Prague, in Czech Republic, in Kazakhstan. That they had an opera house which was really incredible. In Canada, even if we say, and actually it's like this, that Italy is the cradle of opera, and actually it is. But there are so many countries which love opera, and it's a pleasure going to conduct their orchestra in their theaters.
Yeah, I remember seeing, I listened to La Traviata, and a lot of stuff from Giuseppe Verdi. When I was a little boy, my dad used to play the stuff. My dad in Chile had a lot of music, a lot of music, floors. So I listened to a lot of stuff when I was a real baby, and jazz and rock and tango from Argentina, opera. So it was amazing, and of course I didn't like that kind of music that my dad was playing, but when I was 14 years old, I bought my first record, my first vinyl, and I knew that I liked music, and I like rock and roll, like Genesis, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and all that stuff. Then I discovered electronic music, and then around when I was 21, when I came here, I developed an interest in electronic music, and then I started studying soundtrack and a film score, and I, as I mentioned before, I have a wide range of stuff that I like. Music is, for me, it's like it has.
You're an open-minded listener, actually.
Well, because I as I say, I'm comfortable seeing La Traviata. I was listening to Mozart and Bach last night, and I see here where I live in Washington, close to 50 shows a year. I go everywhere, and in all stuff from Peter Gabriel, Pink Floyd, Depeche Mode, Pat Benatar, Blondie, soundtrack, Coldplay, blah blah blah.
It's actually the same for me, and I always say there are only two kinds of music: the music that make you feel something, and the music that can't. So that's the only difference between music. Sometimes you can listen to a folk song made of 3 chords, which is able to send you feelings, to send emotions, and you can listen to an incredible, difficult symphonic piece made of 120 pieces orchestra, and say you nothing actually. So that's it's very subjective.
Absolutely, and sometimes I had bought a lot of, I'm going to Spotify and other places. I listen to a lot of music from soundtracks that I never seen the movie. I probably would never see the movie. And some, crazy horror movies, but maybe the movie is not great, but the music is unbelievable. And I'm able to differentiate between a great movie with a bad soundtrack versus a crazy movie with an excellent soundtrack. And
Yes,
I
you see, I saw an interview that you did with my friend Christian Cincini
yeah.
some time ago, and he used to say there's no very big, beautiful film without a beautiful soundtrack, but there are some bad films with excellent, with excellent soundtrack, and it's definitely true.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't like horror movies or I don't know, Dario Argento or Suspiria and all that kind of stuff, crazy movies. But the music, that because I like electronic music, listen to Claudio Simonetti or Goblin and horror movie. The music is very good, and I perhaps I will never see the movie, but I put my headphone, I get a glass of wine or a beer or whatever on a Friday or Saturday, and music take me places. It's like magic for me. I don't know how to explain it, but music has given me so much satisfaction. I wish I was like a politician and I will talk to Putin and I will give him 10 records, and I will drink coffee with the guy and say, listen to stuff, see
And call the army back. And call
so
the army
hopefully
back.
he will convince him to stop the war and do other stuff, Music, I think a really music can save the world. I don't know. They're my mother's opinion. And do you think when you recording to when you are approached by the new director, do you prefer to see the kind of finished script from the book, the script pre-production, and then you take sound and you say images, or you can envision what the director would like to see as a film score, but just reading the script, or is in between?
You see, reading the script can be very useful, but also very dangerous. Because when you read a script, it's automatically in your mind, you make some images of what you're reading. Yeah. I think it's normal, probably for a common reader, and it's absolutely normal for a composer. You're reading, oh, this happened, like the guys, they blah blah blah, and you got the image in your mind. And so automatically you put some music into that image that you get in your mind. Mm. The point is that when you see the realization of the script, can be very, very, very different of what you had in your mind. So that's why I say that can be useful, but can also be very, very dangerous, because you could. I think one of the thing that I always say, it's very dangerous in this job to fall in love with your ideas. Because, for example, you're running a theme for a scene or for a movie, and you definitely like that theme. What's one? It's perfect. And that means that you fell in love with what you wrote. And that's a danger. That's a danger because this is a kind of business where you must be prepared to give up everything of what you wrote. Because I always say that before I said that there are only two kinds of music: the one that can give you some emotions and the one that can't. But in film music, there are only two kinds of music: the music that the director likes, the music the director doesn't like. So that's why if you are too much convinced of what you wrote, it's possible that you are in the editing room with the editor and with the director, and you are enthusiastic for your job, and you look at their faces, and they look each other, and you got that you did not achieve what they expected from you. So actually, what I prefer actually is always looking at the final edited movie, because it takes less risk, even if you have less time. But it's normal in this job that you always have a very short time, because actually, since the composer is the last who comes in the creation of a movie, especially many times when the composer comes, there are a date of release has been decided, and so if you have 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, let's say the 5-6 weeks is an average time for composing a complete soundtrack. But sometimes there are some delays, so you should have started yesterday, and while you start to compose maybe in 2 weeks, and this means that 2 weeks are lost. So instead of 6 weeks, you will have 4 weeks. Wow. Because the date of release is set, and when the date is release set, the production can't say, okay, let's postpone 2 weeks more. Who cares? Because each date of release is made by calculation, by marketing, by many different reasons, and also it's quite a risk doing this job, and that's why so many composers got rejected scores. Because sometimes when you shot the movie, the music is shot. You can do anything else. Maybe you can do some different editing, yes. But if the movie is shot in a certain way, you cannot call back the cast and the crew and say, "Okay, guys, sorry, we got to shoot it again." It's impossible. When it's done, it's done. And so what happens? That sometimes the composer is the guy to blame if something doesn't work in the movie. And so now it doesn't work because the music is bad. Maybe it doesn't work because it doesn't work. Yeah. And but since when it's shot, the only thing that the producer or director can say is changing the composer. So they're going to call another composer. Instead of those 4 weeks, probably they got 3 weeks or 2 weeks. Several times, some composer, I remember many movie soundtracks made by Jerry Goldsmith, or even some from Ennio Morricone. They do a movie soundtracks in a few days, in 6, 7, 8 days, full soundtracks, which is actually, or even James Newton Howard. I remember with the King Kong movie, it was called, and he got only 2 weeks for doing a full orchestral, or I think 80 minutes orchestral score in 2 weeks. So it's very, very, very tough.
Wow, it's very difficult. And so, let's say they hired me at the beginning. I did a soundtrack. The director doesn't like it, and then they handed Vito Lo Re after me. What's happened with the rejector score? Where it goes?
It depends who own the rights. I mean, in Italy, since we don't have a buyout, the music belongs to the composer. So definitely the composer whose score has been rejected can decide if he wants to put that music in another movie, or to take somewhere in his own archive, or maybe sometimes some composers do a musical piece made of the rejected scores, and so maybe sometimes they also publish and record, or maybe sometimes they got already the recording because it was recording before the score was rejected. And so they publish the rejected score of the movie X. And while in America it's different, because since the composer does a buyout of his own music, so actually the music does not belong to him no more, belongs to the production. And so in many times there's the gentleman agreement between the production and the composer, and the production say, okay, take back your music and do whatever you want with it. But sometimes, especially if there have been, a hard relation, and they part in a tough way, in a hard way, the production said, okay, we pay you for the music.
Go away.
Go, let's say, go yourself. Okay, go after yourself. Okay.
I will fall in love with my own music. That's my problem. When you say at the beginning, you cannot, the first thing you learn is not to fall in love. I will fall in love with my own music. That's my problem.
Yeah, you know what happened in my very last, my various movie. I did a movie, a thriller, which was released last month here in Italy. It's called Io sono l'abisso, directed by Donato Carrisi. And we started in this way. We started with the normal concept. You know, when you start a new project, you do what we call the concept of the soundtrack. So you think, like, okay, these are the themes, or these are the sounds that I want. These are the instruments that I want. These are the feelings that I want to transmit, or you do the concept. Okay, this can be the first theme. You can do it this way in this point, and then they can be changed and then to this one, and do the concept. The point, for example, I did the concept as I do every time I score a new movie. But in the end, the final result was completely another thing, and we arrived to give up the main theme that actually was absolutely working. Even the director liked that theme, and then I thought, and I still think, that it was one of my best theme ever. Wow. But actually, since we started to take off the music from the movie, okay, in this scene, let's not put any music in this scene. But since we do not put here, we cannot put here too, because the two scenes are tied. Okay, so no more music even in the second scene, and so let's take it off from here. At least there was no room for that theme, and so we decided to give up the whole theme. And actually, it was strange, because in 2 hours and 6 minutes or something like that, I put 12 minutes of music. So very, very, very few music made by 3 instruments. So no more orchestra, no more electronics, no more nothing, only piano, cello, and viola. And a song, and a pop rap song that I wrote with Fabrizio Campanelli, that actually was your guest few time ago. And so it happens. That's why I say you can't fall in love with your ideas, because otherwise it's incredibly painful to give up. So this is perfect. It's perfect movie, the theme, but you got to be prepared to
projection.
Yeah. It's, no. Yes, you know. The word rejection generally means that the director or the editor or the producer rejected what you propose. But in this case, actually, it was not a rejection. It was that we watched it in our eyes with the director, and we said, okay, let's do this. It's different. It's a different choice. It's a very hard choice. Can also be a risky choice, but let's try.
What? Got it. What's important, in your opinion, the role of a film, the soundtrack, right? The film score in a movie. I mean, a movie can be a terrible movie with a good director, a bad director, a good movie, a bad movie, a good, great movie. And the music, I suppose, can save, so to speak, a particular scene or 2 minutes of a movie. But if the movie is bad or the director is bad, you're limited in what you can do, right? You can a movie, a soundtrack, save a movie? What do you think that
See,
people, when they go, when you go, you are different, right? Because you are you study stuff, but an average person walking down the street, right? We go, all of them, we pick 50 people out of the audience, or walking down the street in Milan. Okay, I want to give you a two ticket. You. Okay, let's go and see a movie. We'll give you a beer, popcorn, everything, and see the movie for the next 2 hours with great music. Do you think that people really put attention to the music?
no, they definitely they don't.
They don't.
No, they don't. But it's normal this way. You know, this is music for images. It's called music for images.
Correct. Yeah.
If you want the audience to listen to your music, this is the wrong job. You have to write concert music or symphonies or pop music or whatever, or jazz or whatever. You got to be prepared that the most part of people does not listen to the soundtrack. But what those 50 guys don't know is that if they did like the film, or if they didn't, the good part is because of the music, because the music suggests what's not on the screen. It's funny because during my the master classes that I spoke before about, I do this experiment. I take some some very famous movie, let's say Shining with Jack Nicholson, for example, and which is an extremely dramatic movie, and I put down funny music. And it's incredible how you can, on the same scene, with the same dialogues, with the same shooting, with the same actors, with the same everything, that can be turned a dramatic movie into a comedy. Of course, it depends from which part of the movie it is. If something that stab you in the back, you can't put it in a comedy. But music got this power. And also sometimes I do the opposite. I take a comedy, I take some dramatic music, and immediately that movies turns into a dramatic movie. And wow. For example, I remember I did this experiment with the Mrs. Doubtfire with Robin Williams. Do you remember the movie when
yeah.
Like a War? Okay. Yeah. And we take parts of this movie and we put some horror music below. And it was turned, for example, the scene when he was looking at his wife and the other guy from upstairs. With an horror music below, make you think that he's thinking something of killing them or killing the guy or whatever else. Even some very funny scene. You remember when he was in the fridge and he took off the face with with the cream in his own face.
That's right.
And even, which was very funny. But if you put an horror and dramatic music outside, that music comes incredible dramatic. And so that's the destiny of a composer. Only a part of the audience listen to our music, except if the music is very, very important in the music, not only in a musical, but of course also for example, I think of the many times of the spaghetti western or many other, or for example think of Star Wars. Can you imagine Star Wars without John Williams music, without that music, without that presence of the music? That's a music that the audience absolutely must listen, even if they're not willing to.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. You mentioned The Shining, and it's a great movie, and the score. See, the director ended up, I don't know if it was the director or the filmmaker, but they started with some music. The director didn't like it. Then they went to Wendy Carlos, Wendy Carlo composed like 3 or 4 tracks. There is some track online of some movie that we used, and then another person end up selecting a different music, and so it from what the original music to the second, to the third, to the fourth. In some cases, you know, the same with the Exorcist. The first director rated, they hire, I don't know if it was Lalo Schifrin in Argentina or
the very first one. The very first one was Bernard Herrmann. The second was Lalo Schifrin.
Lalo Schifrin, yeah. They didn't like it, and the directors here, Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells, and they say, man, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yes, but this was because the director William Friedkin wanted a soundtrack very subtle, very soft. He did not want at all a huge bombastic music, while Herman and Schifrin as well, they got in their mind something very traditional, you see. And even without doing any comparison, but even in The Exorcist, with last 2 hours and 10 or whatever, there are 17 minutes of music, only 17.
My God!
And Tubular Bells is maybe 3 minutes of those 17 music. So actually, there's no music in all the most important scene of that music, which is actually with the visual impact so strong, especially for at those times. There's no music. The music only takes the transition from a scene to from an important scene to another important scene. The transition is made by music, not the music in important scene, which actually was a revolutionary use of the music.
Yeah. It's amazing. And I think end up, if I remember correctly, they end up using for The Shining Penderecki, I think you remember correctly, which is unbelievable. Which is unbelievable. All right, so let's go back to your stuff. How you end up composing music from Into the Labyrinth? How you got involved into that particular project, which is a very good movie and very good music actually. So.
Thank you so much. This was the previous movie that I did with Donato Carrisi after the last one I told you before, and it was made in 2019, so 3 years ago, and was a huge project with starring Tony Servillo and Dustin Hoffman. And what that was, I was involved because I do music with Donato Carrisi since we were boys. We started together in the same theater, and so we did television, musical songs, radio, and eventually movies, cinema movies. And that was let's say a more traditional soundtrack. That's what I told before. And it was made with a huge orchestra of more than 70 musicians, and it's 86 minutes of soundtrack. So the music, it's always in the movie. The movies last 2 hours, and you have more than 1 hour and a half with music. So actually, in the whole movie, there's music, and that was could be a paradox, but was more easy doing 86 minutes of full orchestral music than doing the 12 minutes of 3 instruments that I did in my very soundtrack. Was easy because we perfectly were aware of what we wanted before shooting the film, and so in this case, I read the script, and Donato got in his own mind a very clear idea of what was the role of music, because actually that's what you have the most difficult thing that you have to deal with when you have to deal with the director is okay, what do you want me to do? What do you want the music is for? What music is for in this movie? Because there are so many different use of a music in the same scene. I remember that Ennio Morricone used to be in a panel in several competition for music film, but he did that only for a few times. Then he gave up because he said, I saw the same scene scored by 10 different musicians, 10 different composers, and there are all of them were good for that scene. It was really impossible saying this is correct, this is not correct, because it depends from what the director got in his own mind. That's the most difficult part of our job probably is being able to read the director's mind, which is actually not easy at all. Not easy at all because since the director is almost never a musician, it's difficult for him to explain something that then you have to translate into notes or into chords. Yes, there are some how do you say some stereotypes that you can use in film music. Okay, you got a danger, you put very basses and cellos with the lower string, or you got something funny, you say but these are stereotypes that can work. But certainly it's not the best use for film music. Mainly, that's why it's crucial, it's vital that you ask to the director what you want music expressed in this scene. And sometimes the director, do what do you feel? Wrong answer. I will say Buzz, wrong answer because if you say to me, do whatever you feel, I'll do that, but I won't accept any critic or any changes of the music. If you ask me what I feel like that. Otherwise, you tell me what you want me to do. And because they always do whatever you want. You do whatever you want, and no, it's not what I want. It's not what you want. It's what I want. That's right. That's what you ask me.
I
very difficult. Very difficult.
And then from a consumer, so I don't copy music, but I like the movie, and like I always do, I buy the CD, right, or the vinyl, right? And many times, well, maybe the majority of the time, you end up, let's say, you compose 2 hours of music, right? From there, only perhaps 40 minutes at the most are those 2 hours, that music that went into the film. And then when I buy the CD, a month later, somebody selected, well, we like this part, we don't like that part, we don't like that part. What's the process? Who ended up deciding what from the 2 hours that you composed to the 45 minutes that was used, to the 38 minutes that was in the CD? What happened? Why?
All right. So until let's say 10, 15 years ago, the process was this. It was the label who published the CD decided that sometimes without even asking to the composer, we do this track, this not this. Yeah. Why they do this way? Because they already knew that after, especially if it was a success movie, that after 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, they would have been released the complete recording version. So it was a marketing reason. So we give you the basic, the most important music, but especially for collectors, we are going to do a new release in whatever 1 year or whatever. and this was a marketing decision. Nowadays, probably the composer got more is more involved in this process.
Yeah.
Because sometimes some pieces are useless, are very useful in the movie. They perfectly serve the scene, but they are useless for being listened. Especially for some atmosphere music with not a particular theme or particular sound. You see that music and it perfectly fits on the screen, but it's useless for being listened. And so nowadays the composer is more involved in this process, and it's a good thing. And that's why when I do a CD release, I always say, okay, this guy, I always let's say I always agree with the label, but generally the label makes me choose whatever I want without even because they perfectly know that if there's some piece of music that I think that it's good it's good piece of music, it's going to be released into the CD, because nowadays it's difficult that we say, okay, in 5 years we're going to do the complete recording release. It's difficult. Today it's difficult having also the very first release of the CD. I always, maybe I'm lucky, I always do, or almost always do a physical release of the soundtracks, because there is a collector's market, which is actually one of the most important part of the market today, because we know after the day the movie released, you got the soundtrack on Spotify or on Apple Music or Amazon or whatever. What makes the label survive is the release of the physical CD or sometimes the vinyl, or it's especially for collectors.
It's me included, right? I buy, like I told you before, I buy a lot of music. I mean, a lot. Every week I get a package delivered. My wife complained what I want to do with all the music, but that's different.
You need a brand new house.
Yeah, and I have, man, if we were to look around, I have stuff everywhere. But I need like a castle. I need like a palace to put on my music. But there's on the other hand, I have seen great movies, science fiction, horror, soundtrack, that the music was never released, and I wonder why. I remember sending letter to Baré Saraban. You did this, before they released stuff, or some of the record major label, a movie from the 85, 87, 88, and sending a letter at the time, or nowadays a computer, an email. Why? This is a great movie, or it's okay movie. It's not that great. The music is very good.
And you want to know why
they don't release that? I want to buy the CD. Why?
I'll tell you why.
For the vinyl.
When a soundtrack is not released, it's the main problem is always a copyright problem. Let's say that nowadays it's not that strange that the soundtracks is not released, especially on physical support. It's certainly almost always released on Spotify. But for example, not always, because I was talking with a friend of mine, composer Giuliano Taviani, which scored a series that in Italy had a huge success in the last 10 years. It's called Boris. And now they did the fourth season of this series, made by Disney Plus, so a big production, and they decided not to release the soundtrack. And when the composer said, "Okay, you're not going to release the soundtrack, allow me to do that," you just need to sign, and I'll take care of the release on Spotify. We're talking on virtual release, not on physical release. And they said, no, we're not interested. We can't lose any time. So the point is that nowadays it can happen. Okay, yeah. When in the old days, when I mean the old day, when I say the old days, I mean from 15 years ago until the Lumiere brothers. If soundtracks of a movie which had a good success was not released, there are always problems of copyrights and of rights. That's the only reason, because it's a loss of money. So no one likes losing any money.
Yeah, but why would be copyright if the in your case you got already paid? A director or a producer pay you X number of dollars.
Sometimes there are trials problem. For example, I do a soundtrack, but Claudio comes out and, hey guys, no, he stole his music from me, and so we gotta go have a trial. So in this case, the label says, okay, guys, I don't want to do any problem. We're not going, not release this soundtrack. This one thing that can happen. Or sometimes, for example, the one piece is chosen for the soundtrack. In the year, that main publishers, they do sell and they do buy part of the catalogs. For example, let's say, for example, that one huge publisher sells to another publisher the Morricone music, the entire catalog. And for example, there is this particular piece of Morricone made in that soundtracks. So the label must ask to the new publisher, do you allow me to publish this piece of Morricone? And the publisher could say, yes, we allow you, but we want X. And the label say, no, we can't pay X. And say, okay, you're not publishing the piece then. That's why sometimes they do not publish the soundtracks.
Man, now I'm glad that I'm talking to you, because now understanding the whole process behind the scene is crazy, and how the stuff work behind the scene. Feel free to elaborate in The Girl in the Fog, how that came together.
Oh, that was another movie that gave me so satisfaction, because together with Into the Labyrinth, it was released worldwide. More than 60 countries in the world. So it gives me so much satisfaction, and was also a huge box office success in 2017. It was the very first movie that I made with the Donato Carrisi. So we got this trilogy actually, and starring Tony Servillo and Jean Reno, which was a very nice person to meet. Nothing often as well. But Jean Reno was incredible, because, for example, I went to see some shooting some days, because to have some idea in my mind of what could be the right music for some scene. And the funny way I was in front of Jean Reno, who was an idol, because for me, in my when I was a boy, I saw all his movies, especially I don't know if they are the same titles in English. It was Nikita or Leon or whatever, Le Grand Bleu, the song. And it's wonderful when you see such an idol, which is a wonderful person. When for example, when we went to the catering for lunch, he was with us waiting for him to be served, and so he was sitting with us, telling jokes and talking about his life, and it was an amazing experience. And this was the case that, for example, the soundtrack was released, but only on Spotify not in physical, but they are going to release it now because I just signed with the label to publish the Girl in the Fog soundtrack, which is going to be released, I think, in the very beginning of 2023. So it's really a pleasure for me because even if nowadays we got music on Spotify and whatever, it's having something physical, something that you can hold in your hands. You can smell, you can open, you can read, even if probably. The funny thing that I went to a meeting with a publisher who asked me to publish some of my music, and I went to this meeting. We talked, and in the end, I gave to her a CD of Into the Labyrinth, and she went, "Oh, so kind of you. I do not have any CD player, but thank you so much."
That's crazy.
And I said, okay, no problem. You can get it on Spotify as well. But this is a gift. This is an object that you can hold in your hands. If you like, throw it away.
Yeah, of course. I like I told you before.
It's crucial because this publisher, which is she's let's say 35 years old, so okay, so not old, not a boy, 35 years old, and she got no
CD player.
CD player.
That's crazy. I mean, I need to touch stuff. I don't want to see a movie of Da Vinci. I want to go to Rome, see all the statues. I don't want to, unless I was poor, right, to read the PDF. No, I want to open Czech, but I want to look the book and turn the pages. Every time that I buy a vinyl, which I buy, I don't know, between vinyls, a CD, Blu-ray, I get, I don't know, 20 or 30 a week. So I like to open it up, look at the picture, look at the text, who is the director, search in Facebook or send an email.
Perfectly agree.
Yeah, I don't want a recipe about Italian food. I want to make. I want to taste the stuff.
The comparison is good. The comparison is good.
Are two different worlds. It's kind of crazy that people that can live like that without doing like that. When conducting our film score, you like to listen to somebody else's music? Like, for example, right, so many musicians I interview, they say, no, I don't want to listen to Peter Gabriel or Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or Coldplay or Depeche Mode because might influence me when I'm writing on the piano next week or the week after. Do you like to listen to other composers well or no?
So now I'm going to tell you the truth, not only for me, but the real truth.
The real truth, right.
The real truth. The real truth is that when we do score a new movie, the editor put into the movie what we call temporary tracks. And for example, they choose the music of Hans Zimmer or whoever else to score this scene, so they can give you the mood that they're going to look. And so when my colleagues say I never listen to anybody else music, I don't think that they are completely true. But sometimes it can happen, of course. But generally speaking, it's different that you have a movie with the first editing version that without any temp tracks, and so it's So what's I remember that I read an interview of come on, I'm going to forget, but very important composer, Nightmare Before Christmas, the composer of Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay. Doesn't matter. And he said, my job is to make the director forget the temporary music, because when the director and the editor has seen that scene many times with that music, the music sticks to the image. And so if you do something completely different, they're going with something stage. No, it doesn't fit to image. No, the point is not that it doesn't fit to image. The point that you got in your mind that track. And so, to be honest with you, yes, I do listen to other composers. I do listen to trumpet music. Of course, that can be useful to have a general mood of what they expect you to do, because as I told you before, you can score the same scene in 10 different ways, and each of them are correct.
Yeah.
Point is that which one of them fits into the director's and the editor's mind. That's the point.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Looking back in your career, any director, dead or alive, that you wish you had the opportunity to work? If God exists and give you the wish.
The funny thing is that my favorite directors are Scorsese. You say Scorsese, but we say Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, of course. And the funny thing is that these are my actually favorite directors. And the funny thing is that generally they do not use any original soundtracks. Because generally in their movies they use songs and that's it. So of course I would have liked to work with Spielberg, which I love so much the music. The point is that what I always ask to myself is, okay, I do so much love Spielberg's movies, but probably one of the reason I do love them is that they have that music. So how can you conceive that moves without that music? It's impossible.
Probably not, right? Maybe it was, right? It's difficult to differentiate the film score, the editing, the movie are three different things, right? You can like one or the other, and perhaps decide, maybe you like the soundtrack more than you like the movie. If the movie had a different film score, maybe you wouldn't like that movie that much, because you end up liking the movie. You end up liking if you go to an island with your wife for vacation and you can pick three soundtracks, three film score, somebody give it to you. Which are of course, not the movie that you have done, but
okay.
Everybody, anybody in the world.
So first of all, I was healed. Was Danny Elfman the composer of Nightmare?
Danny Elfman, yeah.
Wow. Let's say The Mission, Morricone.
Oh wow, yeah.
Let's say The Village, James Newton Howard.
Yeah.
And something from John Williams, probably Jaws, probably.
Really? Yeah.
It's difficult. Just like it's a game, and I accept the rule. But it's possible. It would be hard for me choosing only 100. You asked me for 3, so.
Yeah, it kind of, I don't know. I mean, for me, I like so many, but it's like which concert. My wife asked me what the best concert I've seen is. They're different. I mean, I see close to 40 or 50 shows a year here, so it's impossible to pick one. I like different bands and different film scores for different reasons. It's like people say, what kind of food do you like? Well, I like Italian food, this type of stuff. I like Japanese food. I like Latin food. I like Thai food. Are different. It's not the same thing.
Why picking only one? Why?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
pick all of them. Maybe not together.
Yeah, I mean, for music, probably because I don't know the Exorcist. I mean, I have seen that movie, Exorcist, like 20 times. I know the script inside out. I know exactly what each will say. I know the music very well. I have like a lot of different versions from that that movie director card, some fake stuff, some stuff that Wendy Carlo did and so forth, or somebody else copied the stuff, and that movie, also The Shining, that they freak me out, and I know exactly the movie, what it's about, and also and with The Exorcist, I get scared all the time, man.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise anymore to me. I mean, I get into the movie and I freak out, and I know exactly what's going to happen.
Still today, after so many times you saw it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And,
so it means the director made a good job.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick was a crazy guy, but was a very good guy. Of course, The Shining, but too many to mention that kind of stuff. And what are you working nowadays? What is in your plate now?
Oh, in my play, I'm leaving in a few days for Paris, where I got at the Radio France Auditorium a huge concert with Gilberto Gil. And
wow.
Yes, because I worked with him in the past several times as an arranger, and I went with him in a European tour in 2017, I guess. And we are going to have this opera that he wrote in Paris on December the 2nd, and so we are preparing for that important first night, and with a huge orchestra and huge choir, and so it's a big project. So the very first project I have.
Good for you, man. Well, that's the last question I have. It was very nice talking to you, Vito. And I'm going to be in Italy 2 or 3 times next year. So let's try to get together, arrange a meeting, and I will actually take you to dinner.
Be my guest. You got my email and my
okay. And then definitely I want to get some physical CDs from you. You can sign and everything.
Absolutely, it would be a pleasure.
Was very nice talking to you, Vito. You're a very good person.
My pleasure.
Great musician. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.